It's going to come out. And, the question is it going to come out in a process that reassures the American people that things are being done properly? The Epstein scandal continues to dog the Trump administration, and it all began with a memo that I thought was ill-advised, telling American citizens, a memo that was leaked, unsigned initially, by the Justice Department and the FBI, that told American citizens that, by the way, there's nothing else to be done on Epstein, and you can't have any of the additional evidence that we may have that hasn't been released yet, that provided the basis for our conclusion. So Americans reacted quite negatively, and the polls are upwards of 80% of Americans want the Epstein records released. Now, President Trump has been resistant to this Epstein issue because he's been of the belief, and it looks like he had good reason to be of the belief now, given recent events, that there's information in there that was planted or manufactured or being misused to try to target and smear him. And not only that, but he's concerned that other American citizens could be targeted and smeared as well. And he talked about this issue earlier this week, and I think it's number 25. Let's go to 25.
No, she's given us just a very quick briefing, and in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen. And I would say that, these files were made up by Comey, they were made up by Obama, they were made up by the Biden information, we went through years of that with the Russia hoax, with all of the different things that we had to go through. We've gone through years of it, but she's handled it very well, and it's going to be up to her. Whatever she thinks is credible, she should release.
Yeah, and so over the weekend, he had a bit of a crisis at the Justice Department and FBI because Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, or people close to them, were attacking Pam Bondi and the Justice Department over this memo, a memo that they both signed off on. And Dan was threatening to quit. The credible reports are, evidently he hasn't quit. He's still at the FBI. But it was a crisis for the agencies. And the president has been trying to move past it. But Republicans in the House want the documents released. Speaker Johnson suggested he wants the documents released. So I don't think there is any moving past it. And I think the way to deal with it is to release the information that would be releasable under law through the Freedom of Information Act. And of course, Judicial Watch already has a major lawsuit in this regard, as I discussed last week. The day after the memo said that there'll be no more documents to be released, the Justice Department was telling the court in our case that, in fact, they were reviewing and considering the release and searching for records responsive to our FOIA requests for the Epstein materials for possible release. So, a very confusing situation to Americans. And then on top of everything else, the president was subjected to a smear operation through the Wall Street Journal that published an allegation that Trump sent a letter to Epstein that was typed out and had some very odd language in it that was not Trumpian at all, with a signature over a picture of a cartoon picture of a naked woman. And Trump said, this is just garbage. It's a fake letter. And the Wall Street Journal ran it anyway. And so Trump, in response, he's just furious with the whole thing. He told Pam Bondi the other day, go to any grand jury you need to go to and start getting the courts to unseal particular records about the Jeffrey Epstein issue, because evidently there are records that are under seal that haven't been released yet or can't be released yet. So that's kind of where we stand. And, as I said before, there is a way forward. Release the records under FOIA. And I put out this statement the other day, and it still holds true, and it will hold true forevermore until we get all the Epstein records. Let's run that video. So I have a simple solution to the Epstein controversy facing the Trump administration. Judicial Watch has a federal Freedom of Information Act lawsuit for the Epstein records. The Justice Department just told a court in our case last week that they're still searching for and reviewing FBI, DOJ, Epstein records. Give Judicial Watch the Epstein records. Produce what they can produce under law. Tell the American people why they are withholding any information, if indeed that's what they decide to do. But get the legal process in place so the American people have confidence that all the records possible that can be released under law are being released. Simple plan. Let's get it done. So I'm hoping the White House is paying attention. I'm hoping the Justice Department and the FBI are paying attention. Certainly, it's not for want of shouting from the mountaintops. I was on a series of programs this week trying to educate the American people about this process for releasing government records. I was on Newsmax. I was talking to Sean Spicer. I was talking to C-SPAN. Of course, I did Steve Bannon's program as well, and then OANN. Let's go to my appearance with Rob Schmidt. Let's play a portion of that, number 30 from Newsmax.
Your reaction to the contention from Dershowitz that there's just not a lot there, the courts are withholding documents. Go ahead.
Well, maybe, but that contention can be tested by, as he points out, by releasing the information. And it's my advice to the administration is to follow the FOIA law, respond to our FOIA lawsuit with records as soon as they're able. We were just in court, and they told the court that they're still reviewing records about Epstein from both the FBI and Justice Department. They didn't say when they're going to be released or if they're withholding anything. And, that was the only detail. They're still looking and reviewing. And they just have to move more quickly on that to put some of these questions to bed. You're never going to convince everyone.
No.
And then I went to Sean Spicer's program. Sean is the former spokesman for President Trump from the first term. He has a great little show. It was a great interview. I encourage you to watch the full interview because we talked about a variety of topics. But I specifically talked about Epstein with him just the other day, segment number 31. And, on the transparency side, I would err on the side of transparency. There's material that obviously is not going to be made public one way or the other. And I'm not going to prejudge what that material might be. But we've been around the block long enough to know there's some material that we will never see and may not, and it would be inappropriate for us to see. But they've kind of put a complete stonewall down on the release of any records, at least through this official memo that was signed off on by the leadership of the FBI and Justice Department. They got to lift that veil of secrecy and start erring on the side of disclosure. And I know the president's concerned that there may be people who had, incidental contact with Epstein or business contact with Epstein. And, it's not fair to put their names out there because, you can't have guilt by association. Well, that's a legitimate concern, but the American people should figure it out. In the end, yes, they can make their defenses. Many of these people are public figures anyway. They're big boys. They can do what they need to do to defend their reputations. And then, of course, I was on C-SPAN, which is always a more interesting program. I'm always a little hesitant to do C-SPAN because it means I have to sit there and listen to a bunch of callers attacking me, typically. But there are a lot of callers who are supportive of Judicial Watch. And plus, it's an opportunity to educate people, some of whom don't want to be educated. Here's my appearance on C-SPAN talking about Epstein as well, number 32. And he was killed, either by his own hand or someone else. And the American people aren't persuaded that the answers have been put out there, and I don't think everyone's convinced. I wish I could say, yeah, I'm convinced he committed suicide. I think that's probably most likely, but I'm not convinced it's the answer.
I want to share something that Laura Loomer said about this investigation. As reported by Politico, she says there should be a special counsel appointed to do an independent investigation of the handling of the Epstein files so that people can feel like this issue is being investigated. and perhaps take it out of AG Pam Bondi's hands, because I don't think that she's been transparent or done a good job handling this issue. First, Tom, do you agree that this should be a special counsel? And second, do you think that the Attorney General still has your confidence as Attorney General, or should she step down?
No, I don't think she should step down. I've long been of the view that politically sensitive investigations like this should not reside within the Justice Department and FBI. I don't trust either agency institutionally, and I've said this publicly and about other sensitive investigations that should be taking place. The president should be running them. He should be appointing prosecutors and investigators that report to him in the White House. Maybe they can use other law enforcement that don't have the apparent conflicts of interest that the Justice Department and FBI do to investigate matters such as this, a presidential prosecutorial investigative unit. And whether you want to call it a special counsel or a presidential prosecutor, but Epstein, lawfare, auto pen gate, whatever you want to call it, I don't think the Justice Department and the FBI have the confidence of the American people to get to the bottom of it. And then I was on with our friends over at OANN, Dan Ball, who was energetically questioning me about the Epstein issue.
There's no files? There is files? We can't release them? You can't release nothing? What's going on?
Well, they're not listening to me, which I've been doing Judicial Watch has been doing is literally through court encouraging transparency. We sued not only for the victims' files, but prior to that, we have a lawsuit for all the Epstein records. And what was really strange, Dan, is that they were leaking this memo that says no Americans are going to get any more information about Epstein. The next day, they're at the court telling the court in our case that they're still reviewing and searching for DOJ and FBI records about Epstein. And my solution is pretty simple. Release the records through this FOIA lawsuit that Judicial Watch has. Why? Because that process guarantees accountability for the records that are being released and explanations for the records that are being withheld. And so the American people will have an idea how many records there are, what's being withheld, if any, and why, where do they search for the records. That typically comes out through a FOIA lawsuit.
Right.
Just proceed normally. Don't send out any more weird memos. So you get the point. And we'll see what happens. The president, as I said earlier, authorized the Attorney General to begin seeking court permission to release material that would be impossible to release without court permission, such as grand jury materials. I don't know what that covers necessarily ultimately. But I can tell you what Judicial Watch is doing. We have the Freedom of Information Act lawsuit for all Epstein records. We have a second Freedom of Information Act lawsuit we filed on the death or for records concerning Virginia Giuffre, who was one of Epstein's most well-known victims. And so this process is continuing. I mean, the federal government is in court right now, the Justice Department, over our request for FBI and Justice Department records on Epstein. So either the records are going to be released or they're not going to be released, but either way, it's going to be a process through which the government will be held accountable under law. And so I would recommend, and I will say it once, I'll say it again, that they just start following the transparency law. FOIA is your friend to get beyond this, because you're going to get Congress, I suspect. I was very surprised last week to see, or this week, I guess, Mike Johnson do something or say something I thought he was going to, that was completely opposite from what I thought he was going to say. I thought he was going to say, oh no, we don't want Maxine, I'm sorry what her name is now. Oh, Maxwell, excuse me, her last name, Maxwell, the woman who's in jail now, Epstein's former associate, testifying before Congress. He said, oh yeah, I'd be in favor of that. And he called on the president, or he called on the administration to release all the Epstein records. And, you know, I do know Speaker Johnson well enough to know that's a position that he's taking that's based on the public overwhelming his colleagues with calls for Epstein records. So that tells you where the public is, that Speaker Johnson immediately said, we got to start releasing the information. So it's going to come out. And the question is it going to come out in a process that reassures the American people that things are being done properly? And I would submit our court lawsuit, and maybe I'm not trying to be self-promoting here for Judicial Watch, although why not? We're paying for this microphone, right? But it's a key way to ensure the American people that at least the rule of law is being applied to the release of the records. No more like leaks, no more binders being dropped. I think that's just the wrong approach because it doesn't allow for people to get full answers about what's being withheld and where the records were reviewed and where they were searched for and other issues related to their production. So it's really a simple solution. And I've been highlighting online, I say it's a simple plan to get these records released. Now, does it mean politically the issue is going to go away for the president or it will go away for the administration? I don't know. All I know is that the American people have a right to the records. And you can't go wrong releasing records and being transparent. And the president's instinctively one of the most transparent, I think he is the most transparent president in American history. So I would encourage him to follow Judicial Watch's lead, take advantage of this Freedom of Information Act lawsuit. And of course, the Justice Department and the FBI are supposed to release records under the law because it's required, and just do what the law requires. So this Epstein mess is, as I said, it is a mess. It's a bit of a crisis for the administration because there's so much criminality associated with the targeting of Trump, and Trump would argue he's been doing all sorts of good things, and some of which is tremendous. As a conservative, I'm all excited. As someone who supports the rule of law, we're all excited about his efforts to control the border and shut down the border invasion, which has effectively happened. And because of actions by his Justice Department and FBI, I think ill-advised actions, he's got this scandal on his hands. And it may be unfair, but it's life. And he's got to deal with it. And thankfully, Judicial Watch has a lawsuit that will provide the people answers if the government follows my lead and Judicial Watch's lead to some of the questions they have about Epstein. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.